So one of the things that I notice with my carnivore coaching practice is that there are a lot of carnivores that do really well for a certain period of time and then eventually might have some things like spices or maybe a little bit too much dairy come into their plan that cause them some inflammation, but also more particularly cause them to have increased food noise and cravings. And one of my favorite ways to get out of that is to offer something called a fat fast. There are two other things that I would recommend, but it all depends on the individual. But the fat fast looks like 90% of your calories coming from fat. So it's not a fast where you are not consuming any calories. So you're still consuming calories, but you're consuming mostly fats. So it might look like having a butter and egg yolk latte in the morning, then maybe having some butter bites for a snack, then maybe having some sardines that are packed in oil. Then it might look like a very small percentage of like 80-20 beef with some butter added to it. But basically you're taking in your calories, but you're also making sure that most of it is coming from fat. Why I like this better than the lion diet, than just like cutting out all the spices, cutting out all the dairy and going back to the basics of carnivore, is because the just eating protein and high levels of protein can still keep your stress hormones a bit high, which can affect your digestion and can keep your insulin levels up. What I'm most concerned about when somebody's telling me that they're having cravings, we're having an insulin problem. And so what I typically do is I put someone on a very high fat type of carnivore plan, and in order to get us into ketosis and make sure that we manage our insulin levels and bring that insulin level down. Remember that high amount of protein can still keep that insulin elevated. So we don't need to fear protein, but that's a really good example for a situation where using a higher fat type of plan is going to be really useful. For me, I've been really loving it. Instead of going, if I'm having a day where I'm really having a lot of food noise and maybe I went out with friends and had extra cheese or something like that, typically I don't have a ton of it and it's usually just a condiment, but sometimes things happen, right? Instead of, if I'm having a lot of food noise, instead of just going to a fast, which can feel really abrupt, I like to go to a fat fast, which allows me to keep taking energy in and consuming food, but I'm also getting the great benefits of being in ketosis and getting that insulin level to where I want it to be so that I'm not having those rebound cravings. So hopefully that helps. In my Carnivore Collective group, which is a carnivore coaching group, the next thing I'm going to do is teach them all about fat fasting. And I'm actually going to help them individualize what their fat fast might look like. Because we still want to be taking in the correct amount of calories. We still want to be looking at this as a temporary solution. We don't want this to be our everyday, because certainly protein is super, super, super important. And depending on where your hormones are at and where your healing is at, we don't necessarily want to be doing this all the time. But with these individuals inside the Carnivore Collective, we're going to be just like touching base on what fat fasting looks like, how they can use it. I really love to explore all types of ways that carnivore, how my clients can use carnivore and different pieces of carnivore to help them heal. When you join the Carnivore Collective, actually, you're going to get access to a 30-day strict carnivore challenge. You get things like a sleep contest that we did where we really cleaned up your sleep patterns and made sure that you were setting your circadian rhythm well, and that you were supporting your sleep with supplements and with the right type of carnivore plan for you. I don't know, all sorts of stuff in there. We have a different theme every month, and the next thing that we're going to be working on is fat fasting. So recommend that you join us if you want to learn more about carnivore and all these different tricks and tools, and I'll see you in the next TikTok.